Hey everybody, it is Blake with the MangaReloaded podcast, and today I'm going to be doing a little bit different of a video than usual, but before I get into that, I have a slight confession to make. I originally had a different video intended to be uploaded today, but, well, I guess my computer had different ideas in mind. Last week, Matt and I had a video recorded. I'm probably not going to spoil what the video was about just because, well, we might consider re-recording it down the future, and I guess that kind of gives away what the issue was, but we recorded about an hour and a half worth of content pre-edit, and, well, yesterday I went to start editing it to, again, hopefully get it uploaded today, and I found that it was basically blank. My computer did not capture any of the sound. 99% of the time we don't record video, so I mean, that wasn't too much of an issue, but yeah, there was no sound there, so it was literally an hour and a half of no video feed and dead air, which was an amazing feeling. It truly was, to just be like, wow, all that work went down the drain. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the first person who that's happened to. And I won't even say that that's probably the last time that'll happen to us. But yeah, it's made me reconsider the recording software that I'm using. So I'm trying a different one now. Again, I'm not really going to go into the details of that here, but safe to say this is a very, very last minute idea that I just came up with just so we would have something to upload this weekend. Also, as you've probably noticed, Matt is not with me right now. He had some family things that he had to deal with, and so he won't be in this video. He won't be helping me record this weekend, so it's just me right now. And with that said, the idea that I came up with, and again, this is going to be fairly unedited, fairly off the cuff. I had an hour to prepare for this, so I decided to do a video kind of discussing mainly the manga that I'm reading currently, but just in general the different things that I'm reading right now, because a lot of the times I'm not just reading manga. I know it's the MangaReloaded podcast, and that's the majority of what we talk about is manga and anime, but I mean, I read things outside of that. But at any given time, I'm probably reading 2 to 3 different series, and the reason for that is, honestly, I'm kind of indecisive, and I also have an absurdly long reading list of manga that I want to get to, but of course time is quite an issue. Usually the only time of day that I have available to sit there and read anything really is on my lunch break and just my regular breaks at work. Other than that, I don't really do much reading, so that's like an hour and a half a day. But with that said, I do have an ongoing list of things that I'm reading. And also another thing about me, and I know I'm pretty sure this doesn't apply to Matt, but I'm not going to speak for him on this one, but where possible, I like to read the physical format of manga, so I like to actually be holding the paper volume in my hand when I read it. And obviously, as you can guess, that's a fairly expensive hobby to have. If I'm going to buy every volume that I'm going to read, I would go incredibly broke incredibly fast. So what I usually do is I check manga out from the library, and I have been doing that literally since I started reading, and there are pros and cons to that. Obviously, again, it does get my fix of being able to hold it. It also gives me an artificial way of pacing myself, because I know if I do sit there and read digital, which there are some that I am currently reading digitally, I will literally burn through the entire series so fast. And while that doesn't sound like a terribly bad thing, it kind of hurts my retention or my ability to understand what I'm reading, because I don't have there's no built-in waiting period for me to think about what I just read. Instead, it's just like, nope. I'm just going to keep going until I get all the way to the end. And I've read 20, 30 volumes worth of content in a month. And it's like, what was that about again? And there are two series that I'm actually reading digitally right now. And I'll kind of discuss how that affects the way that I read it. But basically what this is a reading list video, things that I am currently reading or just recently finished. As I said, I don't always read manga. It's not terribly relevant for me to bring it up, but I feel like it falls into my other interests. In the past week, I just finished 2 different books, one of which was an autobiography. I read Terry Crews's autobiography because he's one of my favorite actors, and it was a very enjoyable read. And I also read the entirety of Clive Barker's Hellbound Heart, which, for those of you who don't know, is the novella basis for the first Hellraiser movie. And I'm currently reading a different book. It's a financial book. I'm not going to go too much into that one, but safe to say, at the same time that I'm reading different novels, I am always making time to read some new manga. The current one that I am really focusing on, and honestly is probably one of the most controversial reads I've had in quite a long time, is Attack on Titan. And I know Attack on Titan is an odd series because the majority of its popularity honestly does come from the anime. And I mean, that's where I found out about it from, was the first season of the anime, which was and still is a juggernaut of an anime. And a lot of that comes into how beautiful it is, how bleak and dark the story it is. And that's kind of, I feel like that is a very refreshing thing to have in today's culture. I know a lot of today's culture is very focused on keeping things PG, very happy, very positive, very unoffensive. We'll try that. I think that's probably the best word, is to keep things very unoffensive. So I think having a very dark, gruesome story like that really grabbed a lot of people's attention really quickly, and has hung on to it, as you can see with every time. I know we've only had 2 seasons of the anime so far, but every time a new season is announced, people are chomping at the bit waiting for it. I don't really follow the anime too closely, but I've seen mild mentions of a season 3. I don't know if that's people are dying for it or if there's actually confirmation of a season 3 being in the works. I wouldn't be surprised if it is, just because it's such an incredibly popular series. But I've been reading the manga since the anime started, and I am almost current in the manga. I'm just finished volume 24, and I believe there are 27 volumes total, so I'm close to current. And with that said, I feel like Attack on Titan, and now I could do an entire video on this, and I probably will down the road when I have more time to sit there and really analyze the story from start to finish, because to me, and also worth noting, I'm wanting to keep this video very spoiler free. I'm not going to go too in depth onto any of the series I'm talking about. This is just kind of my current reading list. But in the case of Attack on Titan, I think it's worth noting that obviously most people who are familiar with the series know the general gist of the story, in that it's that we know the entirety of the human race is extinct, with the exception of these people living in this central habitat, this walled city, and they are basically afraid of these giant creatures that live outside of the walls, which are called Titans, and they are trying to prevent them from breaking in, basically letting people live their daily life, but at the same time there are monsters around that could theoretically break in and eat them all at any time. But the walls keep them safe, and they live their day-to-day life. Well, the series starts out with basically the walls getting smashed in by these giant, crazy, powerful Titans that no one has ever seen before. And so their world is shattered, and half the town population is just demolished. And so it's then following this main cast of characters as they try to find a way to escape from the walls and take back everything that's been stolen from them from the Titans. And again, that's the general gist of it. And it was a pretty solid storyline. I feel like, as tends to come with a lot of series that have a very dark start, a very dark, gritty, and bleak start, that tends to go away fairly quickly. And I really feel like it has with Attack on Titan, even before the point that I'm thinking of right now, because there is a distinct point in Attack on Titan where I feel like the entire tone changes. And it's not just like a slight change. Like, I know last week Matt and I were talking about Berserk and how there are essentially 3 distinct changes in the series. To me, Attack on Titan's change is so different that it's almost a completely different series. And again, I don't want to go too deep into the details of what happens or why it happens. Safe to say, there is a point in there where the entirety of the story, the focus, the characters, everything about it just completely changes. You could almost argue the point that the genre of Attack on Titan changes, and I can't figure out if I like it or not. I've been very hesitant to give a lot of praise to Attack on Titan because I can't really figure out if I like it or not. I mean, I know I like it. I've kept with it this far, so I know there's something to it. And again, I do like that very bleak and dark storyline, but at the same time, I feel like at a certain point, the series starts to feel like it's kind of being rushed, like it's trying to freshen itself up. And that's fine. A lot of series do that. But I feel like it comes to a point where it feels like they've exhausted the entirety of the core story in a very similar fashion to Promised Neverland. And again, I don't want to spoil the story there, but I feel like the two are very comparable in that you start with these characters in this sheltered world, and then suddenly their entire perspective of the world is shattered as they realize there's more outside of the walls that they've grown up in, and having to deal with that reality. And in a similar fashion to how I feel Promised Neverland changes, so does Attack on Titan, but it is such a drastic change, and I really can't tell if I like it or not. It's I'm probably not going to say too much more on Attack on Titan, but that is what I'm reading currently. I have incredibly conflicted feelings on it. I still think it's worth anyone's time to read. For the most part, I think if you haven't started reading it, but you've been watching the anime, I'd probably just stick with the anime. Not to say that the manga is bad, but I don't honestly see them completing Attack on Titan in anime form. I really don't see them ever reaching the end of this series, and honestly, for good reasons. I feel like there's going to be a distinct drop in storytelling quality up to a certain point. And again, I don't want that to be a deterrent for people to go experience the series. And again, if you're watching the anime, just stick with the anime. If you have started reading the manga, expect some curveballs to be thrown your way. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about Attack on Titan. Then another series that I am currently reading, as I just mentioned before, and again, in Matt and I's video that we put up last week, which I will link in the comments below, we did an entire video discussing Berserk. And Berserk is a series that I have been avidly reading. Again, Berserk is a series that I am currently reading digitally. And I feel like reading that series digitally really changes the way that I look at it, because I have the ability to read through it so fast. Again, when I started reading Berserk many, many years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago, and then I had to set it down because I didn't have access to any more physical copies of the series. And so in the past couple months, I picked the series back up, started reading it digitally, and it's allowed me to plow through the series incredibly fast. And again, it makes it so I don't really have to wait to learn anything. There aren't any cliffhangers for me. And I feel like that really affects my enjoyment of the story. Not to say that I enjoy Berserk any less because I'm reading it digitally, but just from the standpoint of I don't take that time to really process what I just read. I just keep plowing through. And I think I'm around chapter 250 right now. I've basically put myself on a slight hiatus from that series so I can read something else, because I've only been reading Berserk for a month or two now. So it's like, I need to read something else. So I plan to return to Berserk and get more caught up. And I think Matt also wants to do kind of a follow-up video to what we just did discussing Berserk. But yes, I highly recommend Berserk to anyone who, whether you've seen the anime or started the manga and aren't sure if you want to continue, definitely continue. It is a fantastic series. Another one that I just picked up, and I cannot say as much about because I keep falling in and out with this series, is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I just picked up the next couple volumes in part 2 of the series. And again, this is a series that Matt can speak a lot more to because he is a massive JoJo's fan. And I am a fan of the series. I'm just not as deep into it. Again, that's a series that I'm trying really hard to keep reading in physical format, just because they are actually going through the process of officially translating all of the parts of JoJo's and putting them out in these beautiful hardback volumes. And so I really want to support the fact that they're finally translating them officially. And so I'm trying to keep with just the physical versions of that, and I expect really good things from JoJo's. I haven't gotten too far into it, so I'm glad that I now have the ability to start reading it again. And then the last series that I am, again, kind of going back and forth, it was a similar case to what happened with Berserk, is My Hero Academia. And that was the second series that I started reading once I bought my weekly Shonen Jump app membership. And that was the second series that I started reading through that, because again, I was reading it physically, but then I'm like, well, shoot, now I have this fancy little digital app, I have this fancy little app where I can read it digitally if I want. So might as well do that. So again, I started plowing through the series really fast. And again, it is very good. I definitely recommend it to anyone. Like, despite all the hype that surrounds it, I do think it is a fairly quality series. I don't quite think it's as good as everyone likes to say that it is. It definitely has its flaws, and I think a lot of those flaws are just based on the fact that it's not really a new genre. It's not a new idea, the superhero academy thing. There's a lot of other series that have done it before, but I feel like My Hero Academia is trying to put its own interesting spin on it that still makes it a very interesting series and definitely worth your time to read. So yeah, that is the entirety of this video. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things I'm reading, and as you could tell by the way that I talked, especially with Attack on Titan, I really want to do an exclusive video devoted to it at some point. And honestly, Attack on Titan is one of those series I kind of want to reread. I'm not going to do that until it's complete, though, just because I really want to get the whole story and then go back and see, okay, does it actually hold up from start to finish, or does it feel like, well, they had this started with this one idea in mind, and then it kind of started to get old, so they kind of started rewriting history in a sense, which a lot of long-running series do. I know this is a very controversial thing to say, but I feel like Hunter x Hunter is another series that likes to do that, in that it'll start investing into something and then suddenly be like, you know what? No, we're gonna do something different. So just forget all that happened. We're gonna skip to the next thing. And I know that's a video that Matt and I are gonna do down the road as well. So I want Attack on Titan to wrap up, and then I think I'm gonna try rereading the series to see if everything lines up. But I definitely want to do one video just devoted to discussing my thoughts on that series, with spoilers included. So, thanks for listening, everybody. Let me know what you think of my reading list, what you think of my style of reading multiple series all at once, or do you think I should actually start focusing a little better and just see one series through from start to finish, or start to current? Again, I think all of these that I just listed are ongoing series, so reading them start to finish isn't really possible. But do you think I should get current on series, or do a lot of you also have this kind of thing where you're reading multiple series at once? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, please let me know any series that you think I should check out based on the ones that I listed. What are some that you think I would enjoy, or that you'd like to hear me discuss? Please let me know. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to us. We put out weekly content. Again, there was a bit of a monkey wrench thrown into this week's content, so I'm sorry if this seems really rushed. It was. I promise it was. So thanks, everybody, and here's your obligatory annoying noise. I'm sorry. I really am.